Hey everyone, Genome here, catch you with the next episode in my Marvel Strike Force Top 10 series. Today I'm going to be looking at the Blaster class. That's right, big damage, small health pulls, no defense. That's usually the trademark of the Blaster class. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of rank these in order 10 through 1. So basically, we're going to say 1 to last. Go figure on that one.
What the hell kind of an analogy is that?
And there's going to be a little bit different metric on grading here. The most important metric, though, is how good they are at what they do. Basically, do they serve more than one purpose on a team? Are they exceptionally strong as a blaster? And then, like, some of the secondary considerations are team cohesion and, of course, legendary unlocks, because a lot of characters in the blaster class are needed for legendary unlocks. So let's get right down to it. Before I start, I want to go into some honorable mentions for some blasters that, while they didn't make the list, are either exceptionally strong on their team or in a certain game mode, or I haven't played with them much yet. The first one's going to be Longshot. He looks to be pretty beastly when paired up with Shatterstar, but since I don't have him yet and won't for the foreseeable future, at least for the near future, can't really include him on this list. I haven't really got to play with him much. Next is going to be what many consider to be the worst character in Marvel Strike Force is the Merc Soldier. He just got a big rework. Basically, everything he does, though, is for war. And in war, he turns into almost like a graviton, like a mini legendary for his team, right? So really, really essential for the Skeletal team. But once again, I'm not going to be working on that anytime soon. And he's only really useful in one game mode, so keep that in mind. Next honorable mention is going to be She-Electro. She's bonkers on war, but outside of that, she doesn't really see play for anything, and she's exceptionally strong in one area of the game, but that's not enough to make this list. But really strong character, but really only good in war. And for the last honorable mention, I'm going to go with War Machine. For those of you who play war on offense, they know that it's all about War Machine, getting him to basically turn 3 and nuking everybody with buffs, either from Ironheart and or Rescue. So he's the key to everything. So if he gets the ultimate off, you're doing pretty well. So yeah, he'll be my last honorable mention. There's a lot more that could be on this list, but War Machine doesn't see play anywhere else. So that's why he didn't make the list. All right, for my number 10 pick, I'm going with Elsa Bloodstone. Elsa doesn't really unlock anything, and while she's very necessary for the Supernatural team because they really lack damage, she can be dropped for other characters, but in the damage department, man, she brings the goods. Let me tell you something. I love, multi-hit basics are great. It gets through things like dodge and death proof. Excuse me. She has a great execute move in her special, does big damage, ignores taunt, stealth, everything. Awesome stuff. And of course, it's too bad this doesn't hit everybody, but it makes sense. Her ultimate's pretty good too. Ready on turn 1, does pretty big damage, of course. She's all about damage, but I love her passive. It's such a cool passive, letting you and your teammates hit things that you miss. If someone dodges, you take another shot. Unfortunately, people can dodge the secondary shot too. It makes no sense that she can get dodged, but it is what it is, and we're stuck with it. But I really like the character. I really like her kit. I wish Supernatural was more useful in other game modes. I have used them in some raid nodes, but mostly in cleanup mode right now. But I have a fairly stout one, almost 400k Supernatural. So Elsa Bloodstone is my number 10. All right, my number 9 choice is Rocket Raccoon, and he almost didn't make this list. He was one of my first characters up to Gear Tier 13, and I ran him quite a bit in DD2, but I didn't have a lot of characters to run with, and back then he was a little bit stronger. Rocket's damage is no longer top tier, but it's pretty decent still. And he does bring a few things to the team, mostly a Guardians team, but he can move around because you can also throw him on a tech team because of his passive. So that's good. His damage output's not too bad. Used to be the key to the BKT team, having Thanos dump energy in him for ult after ult after ult, but there's other characters now do it better. But he's also gets a couple extra points because he does help unlock Star-Lord, so there's that as well. So Rocket Raccoon is my number 9 pick. My number 8 pick is a guy who sat on the bench for ages until X-Force started coming around, right? And that's Cable. Cable, a lot like a couple of other characters on this list, acts like a mini legendary on his team. His passive gives tons of different boosts to mutant allies, and more specifically in X-Force, he just does everything just a little bit better. And his special got reworked a little bit also to clear positive effects, which is really good. So, and he manipulates time bars. That's good. He's a solid damage dealer, always has been, but he never had a home before because he didn't really bring enough to the table outside of a specified team to really bear inclusion. But once again, he also gets extra points for helping to unlock Doc Ock, so there's that. And he's become a pretty decent and robust, at least with mutants involved, blaster. So my number 8 pick is Cable. Okay, my number 7 pick, I had a little trouble placing Thor. Thor is really interesting in that he's just not that good of a blaster by himself, but he's like the glue that holds together not one, but 2 teams, right? So that's gotta be worth something right there. Like, none of his moves are all that great. Lightning Storm's not bad when it actually stuns, but it's nothing special, and everything else is very underwhelming. It's just his passive is so good on Wave 1 Avengers and especially Asgardians teams. And you get tons of free big damage, especially with actually Avengers, because you get 2 taunts going, so you can really like ping pong them back and forth and just cause this passive to go off more than once a match, and that's really good. So Thor, while he's not that great like stat-wise, or none of his abilities are all that good, it's his passive that makes him, and he's good on 2 teams. So it definitely bumps him up. Also, of course, note, he helps unlock Black Bolt. So once again, another legendary unlock character. And actually, if you get down to it, he helps unlock Ebony Maw too at the end, because Black Bolt being used for Ebony Maw. Yeah, Thor's going to have to make the list, whether I like his abilities or not. So there he is at my number 7 pick. All right, for number 6, I'm going with Crystal. That's right, the Inhuman semi-healer that makes matches very frustrating when they're on the other side of the board, right? Most of her stuff isn't all that amazing, even though like she has 2 pretty decent AoEs. It's just that her second wind ability, her passive, is just so good. It can really swing the tide, and yeah, it's just, there's no denying the power of it. That alone right there makes her worth a lot, especially on the Inhuman team. Of course, she's not too much used in anything else, but she also, once again, is used for unlocking another legendary character, a great one, in Ebony Maw, so extra points for that. So my number 6 is Crystal. All right, my number 5 choice is Negasonic. Negasonic adds a ton of stuff to her team, and she's not just a blaster, with nothing else but damage to bring to the table. She does many different things. She clears positive effects. She has a really nice little passive. It's just, I don't know, she just brings a lot more than the average blaster does to the table. I haven't leveled her yet because, once again, I have to be stingy. I'm working on symbiotes right now. But yeah, so she brings a lot to the table. And once again, she is required for unlocking a legendary character in Doc Ock, so that gives bonus points and all that. But she just adds a lot to that X-Force team, and she's probably the most valuable member. It's debatable with her and X-23, but Negasonic will be seen in other game modes, not just with the X-Force team too, so that's saying something about her. So yeah, she's going to be my number 5 pick. All right, for my number 4 pick, I had to go with technically 2 because I was having trouble fitting everything on there.
Is that a fact? That's a fact.
And I think these 2 play a very similar role on their teams, and that's Pyro and Cyclops. Between these 2 characters, they're indispensable on the Brotherhood and X-Men teams, respectively, right? Both of them have really good passives that add something to the team, right? Of course, the building up of charges for Cyclops for his ultimate to do huge damage it's a big deal, but he adds a lot of like synergistic properties because he was an X-Men leader, of course, to the team. Good damage. I'm not really crazy about his first couple moves, but of course, Optic Devastation is massive and disgusting damage. It's very annoying when he's stuck behind a Colossus and you can't do anything about it. And Pyro, I would actually rank a little above him for both his kit and his damage output, right? While Cyclops has the big bombs, I would say if you did damage over time, numbers, I'm sure Pyro would probably be a little bit higher, mostly because of how he synergizes with Magneto, right? He's hitting all 5 characters, well, at least 5, that are clumped up together by Magneto's ultimate with all 3 of his abilities. Plus, he has a pretty decent passive kit as well. Heal blocks, that's really dangerous because he's going to be stacking bleeds like crazy. He's kind of a controller character as much as he is a blaster. And while his damage is not big enough front, other than things like firecrafting, him peeling positive effects is just massive, and stacking the bleeds like you wouldn't believe. Even his basic's good by leaving bleeds behind and just hitting all those characters, so his damage really, he's like the damage guy on Brotherhood, no matter what the lineup is, and he's indispensable in the team. They're both really squishy, even more so with Pyro, but they're both really amazing blasters and very specialized in what they do, because they don't really see play outside of their respective teams, which will ding them a little bit. But Pyro also has the added benefit of locking Magneto, and what can I say? He's just awesome, and both him and Cyclops are indispensable members of their team and make great blasters. So that puts them on number 4 on the list. Okay, number 3 is my absolute favorite character from comics, and that's the Punisher. But he is a great blaster, and a lot of people will look past him because you get him he's like your first character you get, right? And a lot of people ignore those characters. And while he's not an in-game monster or anything, he has his uses. And these top 3 are all blasters that can be used. There's no team requirement for these guys. They can get better on some respective teams, like for Punisher, Skeletor, and or Defenders. But really, they have enough use, or at least enough damage output, to be useful in other game modes and away from their team. So that really boosts things up a lot for these characters. My Punisher's a little bigger than most, but it is what it is. His ultimate still does monster damage. It's ready on turn 1, and he's basically in there for that. Special is nothing too great. In fact, I usually like his basic a little better. Good passive depending on the team makeup, but not really necessary outside of a Defenders right now, unless you're going to go hard for Skeletor, right? But yeah, that's I just love the Punisher's kit. I do wish he had a little more utility outside of Skeletor, but it is what it is. He's like the epitome of a blaster. He has high armor, but that doesn't really mean anything anymore. And he's just really good at what he does. Unfortunately, he's really slow. That's basically his Achilles heel, and doesn't bring too much other things to the team, once again, unless he's in Defenders. But yeah, he's he epitomizes the blaster class, and I like playing with him, and I still use him almost daily in raids, usually in the earlier nodes of U7. Okay, my number 2 selection is going to be Ultron. Yeah, he could have been number 1 or number 2, depending on where you're at in the game. Ultron is probably the most important character to go for the newer player, early game player. Getting through DD2 is a chore, trust me, I know. But Ultron is completely worth it. Ultron can single-handedly run nodes by himself. In some parts of raids, like maybe the first half of U7, before stuff gets too out of control, he can really single-handedly take nodes once he gets rolling. All through U6, you just need him. Once you get him in DD2 for the second run, he can completely solo nodes once he gets a few bot storms going. So he's an amazing blaster. He has a great kit. He's useful in most game modes. In fact, until Black Bolt came around, he was basically all you saw in Arena. But now that Black Bolt's around, yeah, you barely ever see him, except maybe the mid-ranks, right? So his one big Achilles heel, of course, is his inability to have red stars right now. I guess it would have broke the game if they would have had it, but it is what it is, and he's just so completely valuable. I still use him daily in different things. Usually I'll swap him in, even in later nodes of U7, I'll swap him in, puts more bodies on the board, has a decent kit for it. Everything he does is really good. As you can see, I've maxed everything but his basic, and even his basic's not horrible to upgrade, just for damage, because you use it quite a bit, actually. It's a really good basic, stealing positive effects. Of course, everyone knows what his special is, and you'll be doing several of his ultimates in a match if things go as they're supposed to go, right? And he's just a buff machine, and there's no need to talk about it too much longer. He was the best character in the game for a long time, and he will serve anyone well, especially once again in the mid to early late game. as a prime blaster. He doesn't require any specific team matchups either, or team synergies. He just does well on his own. He's basically his own team. So yeah, Ultron's gonna be my number 2 pick. And of course, it's going to come as no surprise that the number 1 pick in the game is going to be Black Bolt. As far as blasters go, he is everything that a typical blaster is, and then some. Okay, first off, of course, he's a legendary, and his passive will reflect that. He is vital on his team. His team cannot function without him, but he can function just fine without them. Massive health boosts to his team, the humans, and he shreds villain tech. Once again, he counters completely. He completely counters Ultron and everything that he does. He has some other really good things. You know, the way his voice, disruptive power, I guess it kills him on the cellular level, works. If he kills a character with any of his attacks, they cannot revive. That's an amazing mechanic. Dangerous on your end, though, so remember that sometimes. When characters get below 25% health, basically get down to the red, he will ping them automatically, no matter how many of them there are, and a lot of times that ping is enough to kill them. So super dangerous, right? Every one of his abilities is pretty amazing. His basic is actually really good, probably his second best move, because it clears, and flipping, it's really amazing. It's really good for stripping taunts, his basic is. Staggering Voice is actually more of a specialized single target nuke. I like to use this for dodgy characters like Spider-Man, Vision, that sort of thing. That's when it usually comes into play. Or if you absolutely positively have to kill that character now, this is the move you usually use, at least for single target. And of course, everyone knows from previous videos of mine the power of his ultimate. It's like a tidal wave that hits the enemies. It just crushes them.
Beat the devil out of it and go about your business.
And if you have a way to keep feeding him energy, it breaks the game in some ways. It's amazing raw damage, and everything this character does is just great. As you can see, he's my highest character, and I need to start leveling his actual level and training him a little more, but I'm saving gold right now to work on symbiotes. And I actually thought about dropping a 5th ISO into him just because of the power of this guy and how easy he makes your everyday grind, like things like everyday raiding and all that, just incredible. He's an incredible character to use in war. He's plug and play. You don't have to use him on Inhumans. Use him wherever you need help with. He's really good against, of course, opposing Ultrons, and exceptionally good against opposing Red Skull teams. So he's a killing machine. He's amazing. Don't miss him. This is why you want to go for Asgardians as early as you can, and then from there, do what else you got to do, because getting him on your team is going to be much more beneficial than, say, characters like Phoenix.
You're right.
Yes, Phoenix has a lot of use in things like DD3. That's really early, though, for the newer player to consider. But I'd say for the newer player who just unlocks him, he's going to be the most valuable character you can get outside of maybe Ultron, because Ultron does solo nodes pretty dang well. So yeah, he is my number 1 pick for best blaster in the game. No surprise there. So let me know what you think in the comments below. How was my list? Did I miss anybody? Did I inflate some scores too much? I was really trying to be objective in saying, what does each blaster do best? And are they just prime damage dealers? Are they vital on their teams? Do they help unlock things? There's a lot of different metrics for blasters to think about. These glass cannons are very useful, but it's going to be kind of tricky sometimes to rank them. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to see more content like this, please leave a comment below and let me know what you're wanting to see. All right. Well, until next time, this is Genome.